traffic just like everybody else is, and I'm particularly concerned about the road connections into Treetop and the road connection into Prickly Pear. I take my grandkids to that park quite often, and it's relatively safe right now today, but I'm worried about increased traffic actually making that park much more unsafe for my grandkids. But anyway, I'm opposed to the project as I saw it represented in the newspaper. I haven't seen anything really else, but that's really the main thing I need to say. And we do want to learn a lot more about this and figure out a way to make whatever's going to be developed there a good thing for everybody, including the existing people who live here now.
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Hosky. I live at 308 Fox Hollow in the Coast of Cimarron. First, let me thank you for allowing me to address you on an issue of utmost concern. I'm talking about this proposed Bailey Armbruster track. We moved to rural or semi-rural Buda in 1999 because we liked the quiet neighborhood, the dark skies, and the little traffic. And now we hear there's a proposed major subdivision going across Drove Drive. We're not happy given what we stand to lose, as previously mentioned. We would like to retrain what's left of rural Buda, create a nature conservancy with this land instead of filling it up with apartments, crowded homes on small lots, and narrow streets with lots of traffic, with all the major traffic problems that go with it. A few thousand more cars won't help. A roundabout won't help in the big curve, only create a bottleneck. Traffic light and an overpass might help. Nowhere have I ever seen a roundabout on a major thoroughfare. Have you? Plus, remember that curve floods when it rains a lot, thus closing 967. Finally, where's the water coming from for all these homes, etc.? How about the sewer? How about the other utilities? Then what about the problem of drainage? We all have seen what happens when we get flash flooding in this area. Finally, make sure the streets are wide enough to accommodate two-way traffic with adequate parking plus sidewalks. Make sure it's not like many of the other subdivisions in this area that have virtually one lane of traffic and real problems for emergency access. These are just a few of the issues I see with this proposed subdivision. Please take them into consideration as you take whatever action you deem necessary. Thank you.
My name is James Fort. I live at 140 Wild Wind Cove here in Buda, and thank you for letting me speak again. People are getting tired of developers coming in here talking visions of grandeur with the homes, the trails, and the big amenity centers and such that they're going to be building in here. Then 8 to 10 years down the line, the homeowners start having problems and the developers leave. Our sign down here on the water tower, breathe easy here. That's the motto on the city water tower. How can you breathe easy here when 98% of developers don't let the city know the indiscrepancies on the land they want to develop? There's wells, creeks, archaeological sites, just to name a few. Plus, some of the developers tear down all the trees they weren't supposed to keep. Plus, the city needs to take a more proactive and transparency approach and put boots on the ground and do their own historical locations and documentation. They need to go back 60 plus years and get all the resources that is out there to plan on putting something up. Plus, it's to see if the developer is being honest in disclosure of what's on the property. There's wells on that property, all that. It's over the artesian zone of the Edwards. Who's going to own that subdivision, Buda or Austin? All the wells that are on there are super wells. The water comes up between 100 feet of the ground. Some of them was bore in 32 and some of them were done in the 80s. Maybe by 10 plus years before Highway 45 that runs along the north comes through, because that's up to TxDOT. It may be 25 to 30 years, just like the other end of 45 got tied up in litigation. In conclusion, I'm not against progress, okay? Correct progress is beneficial to all. Progress sometimes is not. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Urbanowski, Pro Tem Tour, all the council members that give up their time to help try to keep Buda between the ditches. Anyway, this is the second time I've come here to ask you not to annex this subdivision until it has a second point of ingress and egress. I will continue to say that. It's a safety issue. Currently, this is not planned for many years. It's Section D or Development D. So existing residents in and along West 967 can expect much more traffic on an already dangerous and overcrowded 967. With our current traffic, it can take up to 25 minutes to get from Cullen Country to I-35 during peak traffic. That's unacceptable. I want to make everyone aware of the cost of development that the residents of Buda pay and Hays County residents pay, not the developers. Because our citizens were so desperate to alleviate terrible traffic situation along West 967, we just spent $73 million of my money, of your money, to build the roads that the developers left us with were totally unsatisfactory. Okay, we all know that. We would not have needed those bonds. This is the saddest thing for somebody that knows the history. We wouldn't have needed those bonds if we'd stuck to the original UDC. There'd be half-acre lots minimum along West 967. Why in the world would we ever invite this kind of development to Buda? We didn't. The large property owners of the Bailey and Arborister tracts did. This is another thing that irritates me. These large landowners receive agricultural exemptions for years and years, and these tracts haven't produced any significant milk, beef, cotton for decades. Yet, when the market turns, they're going to make their millions. I'm hoping the legislature will deal with this at some point and tighten up that ag exempt. I mean, as a homeowner, we know what we're paying. And I don't think I'm going to sell my house for millions. If approved, this subdivision will make our taxes go up. New houses cost the city 10% over what the property taxes bring in. Everybody who works with cities knows this. They're not a revenue generator. It will bring more students to already overcrowded classrooms. And there's a second tax. We have some of the most ridiculous independent school district taxes for the size of city we are. Here's one I don't think a lot of people know. There are 60,000 people in around Buda, southern Travis County, northern Hays County, dependent on their wells. Sole source aquifer. When I was on the first EDC, I got it in the mission statement, and it said we will not recruit water hogs. And as we grow, we will be considerate of the water needs of our neighbors. That has not been the case. What's the plan for city of Buda and Hays County if we have a 7-year drought like we did in the 50s? Nobody has a plan. So, what I want you to do is hold Milestone's feet to the fire. They're playing poker with us, with this city. If you don't annex us and give us water and wastewater, we're going to take our ball and go home and play with our mud. Call their bluff. If they want to come to our town, please make sure they play by our rules. If they do, I'll be the first one to welcome them. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Allison Hall, 223 Treetop Way. Good evening, and with respect, I'd like you to know that my family and I have been in Coves of Cimarron for about the last 15 years. We chose to move to our beautiful city as we had and still have an expectation of a calm and quaint lifestyle. Our long-term goal was to raise our children in a place that preserved a wonderful quality of life. I am anxious about the potential development and additional housing developments. We, as our neighbors, value the quality of living that our neighborhood and the city of Buda still offers. The quantity of folks living here offers challenges that we've all experienced, such as the aforementioned more traffic, petty crimes that we now are seeing on our neighborhood next door apps, emergency situations. What is the overall goal and purpose of this new development in our area? Many of us want to trust that we can believe that we're able to still breathe easy here. Traffic congestion alone impedes a healthy and reasonable quality of life. I am interested in learning about solutions offered to remediate traffic congestion if the development of Bailey and Armbruster is approved in our area. Generally speaking, how will this development add to the value of life and the quality of life that our city is known for? And just a side note, on any given morning as I'm taking my children to the bus stop, it is a beautiful sight to see the bucks, the does, the armadillos, the foxes, and all the other wildlife that come running up and down the street. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name's Patty Mussey. I live at 803 Laurel Cove. Our backyard, our back is on Dove Drive. We live in the Coves of Cimarron, but we also spend a great deal of time going over to the Cimarron Park, just our neighborhood community. And what I'd like to talk about today is, of course, traffic, but particularly the neighborhood street connections. That is something that I'm very concerned about, mostly because we're a dark sky, as Mr. Haschke said, but also the fact that there are no sidewalks over in Cimarron Park. And because it's dark and no sidewalks, we've lived in our house 5 years, and in that time we've seen the traffic at least double, but we haven't put in any new homes. So where the heck is all that traffic coming from? Well, we know it's coming off of 967 to make it through our neighborhood to get onto 1626. We know that. And we're very, very concerned that with this, according to the plat that I saw, there's potentially 8 sections or new streets that would be adjoining anywhere from the beginning of Dove to the end of Shady Acres into both of these neighborhoods. And so if you're going to take that as potentially 5,000 new cars and they can come through these 2 neighborhoods that are not designed for this, do not have lights, do not have sidewalks, the kids play in the streets, they ride their bikes in the streets. Anytime you drive through this neighborhood, you're going to see families, you're going to see children, you're going to see neighbors stopping to talk to each other, all in the street. And so we're very, very concerned about that. Of course, we don't want to stop progress, but I think it's more than, I just wanted to bring up a different perspective. It's not just that there are cars, but what those cars are potentially going to run over when they come through. So thank you for your time.
I would say nothing needs to be moved forward until the TIA is completed and reviewed. This development needs to empty into 1626, not 967. You can be blind and see that the traffic is just overwhelming. We don't need one more new development on 967 coming onto that road. And there's certainly no more until 967 is a 4-lane road with a turn lane all the way to Johnson High School and all the way to the 40-mile-an-hour deal going towards downtown Buda. Some options. I don't think we need to have a zoning change on 25 or so acres. That's spot zoning. Spot zoning has created lots of problems. PNC and the Buda Fire Department should require more than one ingress and egress point. Last thing I want to say is I fail to see what's in this for the city of Buda. So let them go around 1626 like we do until these other roadways are put in place.
Good evening. My name is Walter King. I live at 269 South Avenue in Cullen Country. I'm also the HOA president for Cullen Country. I've lived in Buda for approximately 15 years. Been on the board there in Cullen for probably 10. Milestone also has not reached out to our HOA. They may have reached out to Creekside or somebody else, but we're 1,000 feet from the entrance and we hadn't heard from them for our input. The Armbruster and Bailey track, the impact obviously would be heavily impacted on 967. The strain would be way too much for our roads. Everybody that tries to go to dinner on Friday nights knows the frustration of coming into town trying to go get a margarita. The sidewalks, we put in sidewalks TxDOT did on 967, and those will be useless with that roundabout. The strain on public utilities, our water pressure is barely at 40 PSI in our subdivision. I don't understand how we're going to feed another 2,200 homes with our current water pressure. Water sourcing, that's a lot bigger problem to get into, but obviously that's a huge constraint. Wildlife endangerment, we have a 14-acre property with a pond on it. We have all kinds of wildlife that come up there. I can imagine 775 homes or acres being devastated, and where are these animals going to go? But appreciate all the council members' time. Appreciate all the community, or P&Z members, and what they do for our community. Thank you.
I am in the Coves of Cimarron, and for my sins, I am the president of our HOA. We were not notified about this development. We learned about it basically in the newspaper like everybody else did. Not having the traffic impact analysis done is a mistake. Why are they coming to Buda first? Has anybody talked to the city of Austin to see if the developers have gone over there and if they're looking to get a better deal over here? It could be turned around and come out on 1626. That'd be the first part, the first phase. And it needs to have 2 exits. It needs to have that thoroughfare through to 1626 because people are coming through the Coves of Cimarron and Cimarron Park. A lot of times blowing down Dove Drive at 50, 60 miles an hour. You'll need to take a closer look at why they're coming to Buda first instead of Austin. What did Austin say to them that they didn't like? Be sure that there is 2 exits so that all of that traffic is not landing on us. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to share my concerns about this Milestone development. It's going to be adjacent to our neighborhood, and we did not get, they've indicated that they've reached out to all these neighborhoods, not to us, and we'll be right next door. The traffic on 967 is very heavy, especially in the morning and late afternoon and evening. Now that there are 3 schools lined up on 967, just past 1626, that intersection is terrible. It will have only 1 entrance and exit, and that's 967. That's very dangerous in case there would be a fire or some kind of a disaster in that area. There should be better infrastructure on the back of that area before they would connect up with just starting with 967. One other concern is that I have is that this developer has a reputation for clear-cutting trees and natural vegetation. Those things are extremely important for the environment and certainly enhance the charm of Buda. Thank you for your time and attention.